Hello and welcome. I am going to do a video series on playing Kenshi. This game is like my favorite game. Uh, like totally. I really like it. Anyways, it's just a game that has really captured me. It's challenging. It's fun. To me, it's fun. If you don't like hard, long form grindy games, you'll probably hate it. But if you like being challenged and leveling characters, not so much the leveling characters, but the process of them going through things and all that, I think you'll like it. But it basically, how would I describe Kenshi? Let's talk about that real quick. It's really a game that is some might call it a base building game, others a crafting game, others a kind of an RPG faction building game. It's kind of all of those things, set in a uh, desolate world full of slave mongering, um, feudal society with a uh, with the backdrop that there is. It's like society has crumbled and fallen from a time when it once stood with very high tech, great technology, and there's artifacts of that technology throughout the world. Most notably, there are things called skeletons, which are basically androids or robots that wander the earth and still interact and live within the world. And there's artifacts of that technology out there that you're trying to research and understand so that you can make better technology yourself. Do you ever get to the point where you're shooting laser guns? No, you just get to make better armor and weapons and things of that nature. But that's basically the backdrop of Kenshi, and I really enjoy it. So when you get to the start screen, you're going to see this. Um, you can choose your monitor you're going to run on. Make sure you're on your GPU card. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff. I'll talk real quick about not mods. There's a few mods I'm playing with that you may notice that is different from Vanilla Kinshi as I'm doing my playthrough. Most notably is the Lost and Angel Ashlands um, mod. It's kind of a world overhaul mod. There's others such as Universal Wasteland expansion, which is really good. Yeah, there's a lot of mods that do a lot of things. I like this one. The others are really good too. Try them out. Once you get into Kenshi, you'll probably want to just change up your playthrough a little bit. This one I like. It's kind of like Vanilla Kenshi, very close to it with some added um, dynamics into it that are pretty cool. And there might be an update to it at some point in the future that adds a bunch of stuff into the game, but I don't know if that guy's ever gonna finish it. Not criticizing him. I don't know how he's done what he did with this one. It's pretty cool. Anyways, the other thing I have is this Gutamazi start. Basically, all that is it. There's a start called the Wanderer, which I will do, and all that does is start your character not in the hub where you start by default as the Wanderer, but in a random location in the map. It could be the hub, it could be somewhere else, it could be really far away in a very hostile territory. I like it as an experienced Kenshi player. It's fun to get spawned in a I don't know, harder part of the map, I guess, and try to survive at the beginning. So we'll see how that goes. If that happens, I could get lucky and get spawned in a safer part. You just never know. Not that anywhere in Kenshi is safe for a starting character, but there are safer areas than others. The other thing I'll just point out, I'm using a dark UI. I really like that UI. It's a lot better, in my opinion, than the default vanilla Kenshi UI. It's just easier to read and see the status of your characters. So I'll talk about that when I get into the game um, and point that out. But uh, that's just something you might notice that if you just have vanilla Kenshi installed. All of these, by the way, are from the Steam Workshop. There's a huge amount of mods that people have done on the Steam Workshop. So go check that out. You'll find a lot of cool stuff out there. The other thing I am using that is a little bit cheaty at times is a super cleaner. This basically launders any items that have been stolen. Now, I don't use it for that purpose. I to simply use it for two reasons. I do kind of launder things. I launder bolts and med kits that I steal from fallen enemies because they'll have long story short, they have a stolen attribute, and that allows you to stack them with your other things. But if you remove that, um, the other reason I use it is just for like inventory management when you're out in the wild, because you could just kind of, you don't need building materials or anything to it. You just plop it down and put crap in it and reorganize it and put it back in people's inventory, and it's nice for that. You could use it to cheat, to steal stuff and sell it back to the guy you stole it from, but I don't recommend you do that. It kind of just takes away from the player experience, and but you do you. Anyways, and the last one I'll point out really is this backpacks expanded. That one is just one that gives me a bunch of backpacks in the game that are better than the vanilla backpacks. Some of them are maybe you could consider a little bit like OP in that they are that much better. None of them are like hugely better. They're pretty good, well balanced amount of better, where you don't feel like you're cheating using them. But they do make inventory management and carrying stuff around a lot easier in the game, and that just gives you more options out there. There's a lot of little backpacks and like quivers and things of that nature that aren't in vanilla Kenshi that you can use for like an archer, someone who's a crossbowman or whatnot. So it's pretty cool. I highly recommend it. Kudos to whoever made that mod. It's pretty good. The other ones, this acid resist overall, it's kind of a little bit nerfy, but I tried it out recently and it sort of logically they had a logical justification for their creation of it, and it made sense to me. It does make things a little more flexible for your humans and whatnot when they because they need protection from acid rain, and it gives you a little more flexibility in the armor choices. I'll put it that way. We won't get into the details, but I kind of like it for that reason. Instead of having everybody just stuck with the same armor that you end up wearing that you need to wear so you don't have acid get hurt by acid when you go into places with acid rain. Anyways, that's it. So we'll go ahead and hit OK and launch the game, and I'll just kind of go through the beginning process of playing the game. Um, all right. So as soon as Kenshi starts, you get the ominous music. This is it. It sets the mood for what Kenshi is. You're going into the wasteland, and you're gonna go make a name for yourself, or you're gonna die. One or the other. Either way, it's gonna be awesome. All right, so what is Kenshi? Let's talk about that real quick. I think I talked a little bit about that, but the way I want you to think of it is you do create a starting character or characters. You can have multiple characters at your start, but I want you to think of it as you're playing as the faction, right? So you are you. You is the faction. You're not necessarily a specific character. There's kind of a little bit of role play going on, and you can kind of focus mostly on your starting character if you want, or other characters you collect along the way and bring into your squad or your clan. But you are the faction. So if your like starting character dies, but you have other characters, you keep going. They died, It's part. Maybe that makes your playthrough and the dynamic of your playthrough even more interesting because you're like, hey, this guy, brought us together, and now we have to go, revenge his death, or who knows, whatever. You can do things like that. So that's kind of how it goes. So when you go in here, you're going to click New Game, and you're going to come up by default with the Wanderer. So the Wanderer is the start I recommend you you go with if you're new to Kenshi. And why I recommend that is it's kind of you're just somebody and you start out in the middle of nowhere, actually typically in the hub, and you go about and you start wandering around. And this is where people don't a lot of times start, and then they're like, I don't know what to do, because that's how I was. And so you have to figure it out a lot on your own or read tutorials and whatever. So this is going to kind of, I don't want to so much just give you a tutorial as much as like, here's some tips, and this is actually how you can do it. Maybe I'll get into situations and sort of kind of walk through like, okay, here's my decision making process to get through this situation type of thing. Just to maybe give you some background. So, anyways, all we're gonna do is choose this. There's a bunch of starts you can go through. Some you start with multiple characters. You can do whatever you want. I don't think it makes a lot of difference in the long game unless you want to play as a certain way. But once you learn Kenshi and figure it out, then you can decide that, and then you can be like, oh, I want to go do this. I want to play as the Holy Nation, and so I want to do this start or whatever. You can choose what you want to do. But if you start like this guy, you can kind of just figure it out as you go, or um, do you're not tied to any specific path. You never are. You can just do whatever you want, anyways. So we'll go ahead and load it. It's what's going to happen is it's going to load, get to a loading screen, and then you're going to do a character selection screen, and then you'll start the game. Okay, so let's talk races real quick. Does it matter what race you are? Not really. You can start as anybody. The only reason it would matter, everybody will tell you, if you're the Holy Nation, you want to basically be this guy. You want to be either this guy or this guy. You got to be a human male. That's pretty much it. Um, uh, do you want to be stuck? Uh, so, anyways, that's the only reason it may make a difference. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. You'll see different people. You have humans, you have Scorchlanders and Greenlanders. They have slightly different stats. Honestly, this does not matter in the long run. It does affect how quickly they gain XP and stuff at those certain skills, but in the long run, it honestly doesn't matter. Anybody can get good at anything, so don't worry about that too much. Um, when you're starting later on, if you can, that might make an impact on how you want to play it, and so you can choose that. So we have the Southern Hive. Southern Hive, I think this is from a mod. There's regular hivers here. These are regular Western hivers. Now these are in the game by Vanilla. I think I have Southern Hive. I think that might be from the Lost and Ashlands mod. I may start as one of these because I've never played as a hiver from the start. I always get hivers. I usually get everybody in my squad, although I did one playthrough as skeletons only. These are basically, like I said, the robots. You can be a robot, and or you can play as robots, or you can have robots in your faction. This is the one I would recommend. You could start as a robot if you're new to Kenshi. It's a little bit more challenging to be a robot at the start. Um, Mainly because it's harder to get a repair kit to fix yourself when you get hurt. But once you have what you need, they're actually, in my opinion, a little bit easier to play as if you know where to go and to get the things you need. But mainly because they don't get hungry. They don't need to eat. Everybody else needs to eat and they need a lot of food, and that's a challenge. So you got the skeletons, you have your hivers, in the Hiver clans, they're both the same on this Western and Southern hives. The Southern ones are these pink guys. So you have a drone. He's good at like laboring and stuff. You have a Hive Prince, which is better at like science and things of that. And vet. I didn't even know I could do vet. That must be part of the mod. And you have soldier drones. So the soldier drones are uh, like better at fighting. And then you have, so in the hivers they kind of have different classes of people, but like I said, you could have a soldier drone who's a cook. It doesn't matter. And then you have Shek. So Shek are cool. They're like an ogre-ish type race that kind of come from their culture is a little, I guess I'd call it a little bit Viking-ish. They like combat and war, and maybe not Vikings, because Vikings were all about looting. I don't know. I don't know history that well, but they're like a warlike race, and they like to fight. But they can, like I said, he could be a farmer. There's Czech farmer. Every community has farmers, right? Everybody has to eat. So you just pick who you want. You can change how they look. You can change their face. They have some options. There's probably more options for humans than with. There's a lot more options, especially with some of the mods I have. There's a lot more options for humans than like Shek and the other races, but you can go change your appearance and then choose who you want to be in the game. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this guy, I think, because I've never started with a hiver. So I'll just do that this time. And I'm going to change. Oh, cool. Yeah, I like it. I'm not gonna change anything else about him. He's got crazy tattoos on his face. These guys are good at like sneaking around. I always sneak around, so everybody in my crew always gets good at sneaking, even if they're not particularly adept at it, even skeletons. So, um, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'm gonna change it. I kind of like that name though, but I'm gonna change his name to Zog because he looks like a Zog. I don't know. Anyways, you can name your character. You can change their appearance. You can see what they look like with and without their clothes on if you want. Which sometimes that may sound funny, but the reason why you might want to do that if you're looking at you can edit your character later, and if they have like a hat on, sometimes you need to take it off so you can see what their face and their hair looks like or whatever. So that's why that's there, I think. Um, and then you just hit confirm, and then we'll start. So I'm doing Wanderer, and I'm going to start in some random locations. So we'll find out where I end up. Wow. So this is cool. Yeah, I ended up in Ockran's Pride. Yes. Okay. Cool. So this is a Holy Nation territory. That's very cool. All right. So that's my start. This video is long enough as it is. I'm going to do another video and talk about the UI and what to look for, what to check out. So the first thing I would do when you start the game is hit the space bar or click pause. Boom. You can pause. You're gonna pause a lot. I pause and play constantly. Pause, play, pause, play, pause, play. Not the whole game. Sometimes I've just let it go. You can get your community to a point where like I've literally like just left my game running like overnight and come back the next morning and see what the heck they did, what they accomplished overnight. But that takes a while before you're at that point where they're that self-sufficient. You got to make sure they have food, they have jobs to do, or just a place to sit around and do nothing. You have to know that your community is strong enough to hopefully withstand any attacks that come onto their base while you're not attending it. But you can get to the point where they're sort of somewhat autonomous to some extent, at least in their home base. But in general, like when you're starting out, you're going to do a lot of pausing. So like this guy's a dog. Okay, these guys can really mess you up out in the wild. Like if I attacked him, this guy, especially early character, no armor, this guy's going to hurt me. But he's a pet. He's like not a wild dog. There's wild bone dogs out in the wild, especially in this area of the map. But this guy is a pet. Now I'm in the Holy Nation and I am a hiver, which is not good for me. So this is like what I was talking about with the vanilla start. It's you start in the hub, which is going to be it might be on our no, we're far enough away. So I'm right smack dab in the Holy Nation, in the middle of the Holy Nation, which is here on the map. I'll talk about that on the next video, but normally you would start down here and where it's a little safer for like any character. It's the Borderlands. It's not safe, but there's no one who's going to be hostile. Here, the Holy Nation does not like anyone who's not human, so they'll probably try to enslave me if they see me. So I gotta go run away. But anyways, I'll come back and we will continue from there. All right, talk to you next time.